Will you believe me if I told you that in one of the most diverse counties in the whole nation here in the US, a black doctor was refused to open a checking account at a major bank branch, even having to deposit a $16,000 money into that account. Why? For what reason? This is what strikes me the most because it is so ridiculous that in 2021 we are still hearing such stories, especially when it comes to certain people with certain kind of skin color, if you see what I mean. So I'm gonna just, play the whole interview, on actually we'll hear the whole story. I think it's better that way. And at the end of the video, or the later part of the video, I'm gonna make some comments and say exactly why this is such a big problem, you know, for America, especially in 2022. All right, so let's get into this.
From my home state of Texas, where a black cop filed a lawsuit against Chase Bank for racial discrimination for refusing to deposit her check or open a new account for her. Dr. Malika Mitchell-Stewart wanted to deposit a $16,000 check from her employer associates in the bank, and they began to question her age, her occupation, the check's validity, ultimately denying her service. Jones us right now. Dr. Malika Mitchell-Stewart was her attorney, Justin Moore. Glad to have both of you here. So, okay. So, Malika, what city was this in?
This is in Sugar Land, Texas.
Sugar Land, Texas, suburb of Houston.
Yes.
So you go to the bank, and how long ago was this?
A couple weeks.
Okay. So you go to the bank, you get a check, and you walk in. You got an ID. Okay. On your ID, you got a Texas driver's license. Are you from Texas?
Yes, born and raised Houston, Texas.
Cool. So you got a Texas driver's license, and which has your date of birth on it, which has all your information. You go to the counter, and what happens?
So what happened was I signed up to be seated with a specialist who can help me open an account. They call my name back. I go down and sit with her at her desk. I tell her that I want to deposit this check into a new bank account with you all, and she takes my check, and then she looks at me, and then starts looking at the check, and just starts to ask me questions like, "What do I do for a living? What company do you work for?" Asking my age and all these different questions, and then proceeds to say that this is probably a fake check, and she wants to go talk to someone else to get, I guess, further.
Wait, she says this is probably a fake check.
Mm-hmm.
How did she arrive at that?
I don't know, and that's why I was asking all the questions, and that's when she went to go get someone who I assumed was the bank manager to come talk to me as well, but actually was just the lead teller that also came and talked to me, and they just said that it looks like a fraudulent check, and we're not going to let you open a bank account, and we're not going to let you deposit this check.
Okay. Now, first of all, were both of these folks white? What were they?
Mm-hmm. So one was white and one was Indian.
Okay. Now, first of all, last time I even looked at a physical check been a long time. I don't even write checks anymore. But checks have routing numbers on them.
Mm-hmm.
Check, you had the name of the company. If they actually questioned the check, they could have actually called the company and says, "Hi, I'm so and so. Dr. Stewart says she worked with you. We just want to verify employment." They could have actually done that, but they didn't do any of that.
They did none of that. They just said, "I feel uncomfortable, and we're not going any further."
All right. Did the bank manager ever come over?
No, she wasn't even there that day.
Okay. Was there an assistant bank manager?
No, I was under the assumption that she was the bank manager.
Okay. So, all right. So when did they start asking you all these other questions, your age and other things like that?
So during the process, when I was trying to explain myself and just tell them like, "Hey, this is my check. I work at this new clinic that's opened in Houston now. This is my sign-on bonus. I can show you documentation of the correspondence between me and my office. Whatever information you need, I showed them a business card. I was just trying to give them all the information they needed. I thought they would need to just believe me and believe the validity of the check. So I tried my best to give them as much information, but they still just kept saying, we feel uncomfortable and we're not going to deposit the check or open a bank account for you.
Here's a statement the bank has sent. Pull up, please. We take this matter very seriously and are investigating the situation. We have reached out to Dr. Mitchell-Stewart to better understand what happened and apologize for her experience. Justin, have y'all heard from them?
We've heard from their attorneys, and it's been a direct response from the lawsuit being filed. And with them responding to the lawsuit, they have expressed some regret as to what happened. But we have to realize that Dr. Mitchell-Stewart filed a complaint at the bank a week after this incident occurred. So the incident occurred December 18th of 2021. She filed a complaint December 27th of 2021. She waited almost 30 days and she hasn't heard anything from the bank until this case started to go viral on social media. And after the case began to go viral, that's when the bank started to send out overtures about some sort of apology. So we believe if there was an apology, which the bank has profusely apologized to multiple media outlets in response to media requests, we believe that those apologies are only coming from the fact that this story has gotten a lot of attention. And they basically shirked their responsibility to respond to the complaint that she filed, and they lost out on their opportunity to apologize then throughout that complaint process.
The thing that's really interesting here, Dr. Stewart, is they can deposit the check and they can place a hold on your account, no activities whatsoever, for 5 or 10 days to see if the check clears.
That's exactly my sentiment. I tried to ask them, is there a way that you can deposit the check, hold the funds? I won't touch any of the money. I won't use a card. You can keep the debit card that you give me if you want to. Regardless, they're mailed out to you, so I wouldn't have had it for a few days anyway. But I wouldn't have touched the funds until they were fully verified, and they weren't hearing that either.
This is, Justin, Chase has had a lot of issues before when it comes to Black folks. They've had employees file racial discrimination lawsuits against them. They've had other examples like this. I remember a story of a brother in, I think it was Arizona, who they were trying to steer him away from, I think it was a former athlete who had several $100,000 and wanted to invest, and they gave him a hell of a time as well. And so, and they got their diversity and equity and inclusion programs and, things along those lines. But you would think Jamie Dimon and his bank will be actually moving a hell of a lot faster when it comes to this story if they heard exactly what happened.
I mean, you would presume that, but I think Chase's legacy of racism goes far beyond what's happened in our contemporary times. This bank has financed slavery, and I think that's a story that gets lost in translation. I mean, through their Black Pathways program and things of that nature, I think a lot of folks seem to think that Chase is an equitable company, but we know that they have a long legacy of racism, and it's bearing itself out now with the redlining that they're participating in by denying Black folks financial services at their branches around this country. So there is a pattern and practice that not only exists today, but it's existed for centuries now. So I'm not shocked at all that Chase hasn't come to the table with an apology that has some level of contrition to it and has some type of substantial, tangible type of redress that's being afforded to Dr. Mitchell-Stewart and other folks that have experienced this type of racism.
All right, folks, I'm going to pause here because you can feel free to watch the entire rest of the video. But truth of the matter here is, okay, let's just recap what is happening here, all right? So first off, you're not supposed to actually ask a whole lot of questions for somebody you're trying to take money from. I mean, I shouldn't have to explain myself to any bank out there, especially here in the US, because I'm giving you my money. Because you're going to you're going to turn right back and use my money to make you a lot more off of my money. So what is it why is it that I should actually beg you? Because it's pretty much coming to this point. I mean, should we beg for banks to actually take our money? Now, number two, if you actually paid attention to the video, she kind of tried to work with them, even though at the very beginning of their answer on the request to open a checking account, it's obvious that hey, there is something really, really, really wrong here from the fundamentals of this situation. Why? Because they're asking about her age. They're asking about where the money is coming from. They're asking about okay, I have no issues with that, right? Maybe it's part of what we call the know your customer or due diligence. But at the very answer, the very moment she's answering those questions without any natural logical reason behind it, it just decided that you know what, this probably is a fraudulent money. Why? Because of my age, because I'm too young to be a doctor, or because I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then comes to the other part where this is even like mind blowing. It's a checking account, meaning we can actually take the check or even call the employer to make sure she is who she's saying she is. But they didn't do that, right? Now, even without going further than that, they can take the check. When you deposit the check, it gets cleared. And between the moment it gets cleared and the money is actually deposited into your account, all right, they are doing background checks. They are doing, double checks with the counterparty, right? Because the money has to come from her employer. And she said, this is my signing bonus. We're not even talking about $160,000. We're not even talking about $50,000 here. Not even 20K. We're talking about $16,000. So it's not a whole lot of money to raise all of these suspicious questions from the bank. All right. So deposit the check, you made all your counterparty, checkings and double checks and everything. And then if it doesn't clear, if it doesn't checks out, the story she's telling, then yeah, you send her a letter or a notification or whatever telling her, hey, Dr. Mitchell, Stewart, we are sorry, but based on, your check being fraudulent, we cannot open up your checking account. That will be the classical professional business ways to actually handle this whole situation because nothing is flagging the reason why that lady, that black doctor, Dr. Mitchell-Stewart, shouldn't be entitled of opening a checking account at that specific branch. What is even more stunning to me is the fact that I live in Houston. I live 10 minutes away from that, area, Sugar Land. Sugar Land is, you can check it out. Sugar Land, it is one of the most diverse county or city in the whole nation. Meaning, coming from an Indian or coming from a white, people, this is the race of the people, handling the matter at case. I don't know, man. You wouldn't expect because there are plenty of clinics, plenty of wealthy people living in Sugar Land, Texas. So it shouldn't be a surprise for them that even if she's kind of young according to their standard, to have that kind of money. And I bet you my money, if she was a white lady, this will have never, ever happened. Why? Because all of these stories, all of these stories are only and always pretty much going back to people with a certain type of skin color, the dark folks, the black and the brown. Why? Are we too dumb to be doctors? Are we supposed to also have that kind of money to open a checking account? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just asking questions to kind of try to wrap my head around with something that's totally foolish and ridiculous. We live in 2022. This is America, man. But sadly and very sadly and unfortunately, it's very sad to actually come to the conclusion that, well, this is the story of many, 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 many black people around the nation, right? How many times are we going to still going to hear about stories of black folks trying to do business with the bank and getting out handcuffed? It happened. If you're surprised, I mean, check out. It happened a lot more than you will think. This is a constant battle. So let me know in the comment section what you think. Is this an overreaction? Is this something? I mean, just social media what you think, folks, but, yeah, this is definitely wrong.